when you're asking for a medium to change, you start fostering a lot of new talent. It takes years for that, that inspiration for a younger generation to come through, and it's happening. It's actually happening quicker than I thought it would. I'm really optimistic about it.
So I want to talk a little bit about how you started as an artist. And when you were first starting out, illustration is what a lot of people know you for. Is that the first intention for you, was always to just be an illustrator in that vein? Or was comics kind of in your path, in your mind too?
Yeah, it was actually always comics from the beginning, but after university I have a degree in fine art. I was kind of doing freelance illustration for things like the Science Museum in London. So I wasn't well known at all then. It was kind of just working in between jobs after university, but my goal was always comics. I've loved comics since I was very young. So
you've been a comic fan your whole life, and so when you know that you're out there and you're just getting work and you're starting out, do you start kind of looking at pitching, DC, or figuring out how do I get my foot in the door, or was it a matter of you doing the work and then they found you through the work?
Yeah, it was me just doing the work, really. After university I started working in comic shops, and I decided to set up a festival, Thought Bubble, around that time, and through setting that up I got to know a lot of people in the industry, and around that time I'd set up an Instagram and a Twitter account, and I picked my art name, Tula Lotay, for all those accounts, and I just started posting work on there. And because I knew people in the industry already, through that they started seeing that I could draw and talking to me about this, and then I got work with DC through that, and it hasn't stopped since, really. It's just kind of snowballed, like DC, Marvel, Image.
Which is so wonderful.
Yeah.
And for someone that loves comics, it's like a dream come true. And with your style, when you've figured out, such this beautiful illustrative style, but comic books, aren't always known for that. Some books are. So when you first came into DC, was there an adjustment of your work, or were they very accepting of your style for the books that they wanted you to work on?
Yeah, it was my style, really. I was lucky because my first work with DC was Vertigo, and Vertigo is an imprint which has always kind of embraced people's style and working differently. It doesn't use the house style as much as the regular DC titles, so I was kind of working the way I wanted to work straight away, and they seemed to really like that, so it worked very well.
So tell me about, as being a comics fan, was there a character or was there a book that you desperately wanted to work on, or any of the writers that you went, oh God, I get to finally get to do this?
Yeah, I mean, my first kind of big series that I did was with Warren Ellis, Supreme Blue Rose for Image. And that was a dream come true, working with Warren, because he's such an incredible writer, and he was so wonderful to work with that I was lucky very quickly to kind of head into that. So that was perfect for me, but also working on Batman with Scott Snyder. I did All-Star Batman with DC, and I remember Scott talking to me about it, saying, I really want you on this book. What character do you want to work on? And I straight away said Poison Ivy. And so he kind of let me do whatever I wanted with that character, and we kind of worked a lot on the script together, and we kind of jam on it. Like, he'd have ideas and I'd do illustrations from that, and then he'd base a lot of the script around that, so it worked really well, and that was a dream, working with Scott on that.
That's so wonderful. And the process of, you have worked with Warren before. When you're working in that medium where it is so much of, you have to kind of be in step with the writer in order for you both to appreciate what you're both going to bring to the story. Tell me what the alchemy of that is, working with comics, because when you do an illustration, you're just working with you, but in this process of working with a writer, how do you find it works best for you?
Yeah, I like writers that are not super hands-on. I like to be able to explore characters and visuals and do my own thing. And I've been really lucky in that sense, especially with Warren at the beginning with Supreme, because we hadn't worked together before. It's always kind of tricky at first because it's like, how are these things going to work? And so I was getting scripts from Warren that were maybe a bit more descriptive because he wasn't sure about how I worked. But we found out very quickly that he could just leave me to do things and change things in the way that I wanted, and that was wonderful. And so at the same time, working with Scott Snyder, he did a very similar thing as well. So I've been very lucky with the writers I've worked with. They've given me a lot of freedom to do what I want, and I do like working that way.
So as an artist, you have loved the comic book medium, but then there are a lot of other influences that can, from filmmakers and such on your art. Who would you say at this point of your drawing career that you pull from, or find that even if you just go and read or look or watch something that they're making, you kind of feel filled up and you go off and feel like you're doing inspired work based on them?
Yeah, I mean, I watch a lot of films. Before I started working in comics, I was a trained 35mm projectionist. And I worked out at an art house cinema, so I would watch films all the time. And I find that when I'm working on projects and illustrating things, if I do get stuck, I might put a movie on, and I'm constantly inspired by new movies that I watch as well. I'm a big fan of Lynch, and I can always get a lot of inspiration from his stuff. And just films that I've seen recently, like You Were Never Really Here by Lynn Ramsey. It's like I just watched that film. I've seen it 4 times now, and the visuals are so incredible. You just, as an artist, you kind of just walk away feeling utterly inspired. So I do take a lot of that from films, but also just comics and illustrations around me as well. Film posters by companies like Mondo. They put out such wonderful illustrative posters that you're constantly inspired by your peers and people around you. And the same with the comic book industry as well, like Bill Sienkiewicz, John Paul Leon, all these people. I look at their work constantly on social media, and it's really inspiring to see that stuff.
When you're working as busy as you are, it's always hard as an artist you can watch films, but do you get a chance to read very much? And are there any books that you're seeing out there now that you're really enjoying, or that are even, you hope that there'll be some collaborations down the line just because you really dig what somebody's doing?
Yeah, I really like a lot of the DC stuff at the moment. The things that like Black Label and all these new titles that are coming out that Kelly Sue DeConnick's working on. A lot of the new stuff that Tom King is doing, he's a great writer. I love his stuff. Scott's new book, DC Metal. All of these things, and then like the regular Image things, Image titles as well. Wicked and the Divine is wonderful, and Saga's great. I'm still trying to catch up on that, but I love it. I love those books too. Brian K. Vaughan's a great writer.
So wonderful.
Yeah, big goals.
So are you, as you said, Thought Bubble started 12 years ago, and that's, your co-founded native comic book convention that happens. And have you changed the goals on what you want Thought Bubble to be? Having co-run that, what are your thoughts on it, where it is now, and where you want it to go?
I mean, we're in a very similar place to what we've always been in from the beginning, but we're much bigger. So I set Thought Bubble up 12 years ago now, and it was always about working with community groups, schools, and running an educational program that allowed children and adults with literacy problems to use comics as a medium to learn, create, and have fun. And we're still at that place now, but we're on a much larger scale. We've got sponsorship from Comixology, Leeds City Council are massive supporters of us, and we're doing what we've always done, but we're reaching a lot more people. So it's a wonderful place to be at. We had a massive move last year to Leeds City Centre. We were always kind of on the outskirts of the city before that. And that was just incredible. We had Jared Way there, Brian K. Vaughan, just like a massive amount of guests.
Names, which is so great.
Yeah, and it just went crazy. So we're expecting this year to be just as big. We've got Warren Ellis and Leslie Hung, some great names this year, and it's going to hopefully be really good again, a lot of fun.
So I want to ask too about, you know, the business has expanded. We've got a lot of women creators, a lot of women illustrators. Just in even the years that you've been working, how do you see the business? Do you feel like it's at a place where it's getting better, or do you feel like you hope there's more opportunities? Where do you see that as a female creator you'd like to see more improvement?
I mean, I think we're doing pretty well in the comic book industry, and I think you see a lot of things that are happening at the moment in other fields like Hollywood. It feels like comics were doing this 5 to 7 years ago. That's when it really started for us. There was a massive dialogue happening. It started on social media, and I think we've come a long way. I mean, there's a lot further to go, but kind of when you're asking for a medium to change, you start fostering a lot of new talent. It takes years for that, you know, that inspiration for a younger generation to come through, and it's happening. It's actually happening quicker than I thought it would. I'm really optimistic about it, and I like the way things are moving, and I think publishers like Image and DC have really gotten on board with this. I think they really care about that, and they recognize that there's a whole other audience out there that wasn't tapped into, and that's important.
Yeah, it really is. You recently just did your own single show in America here at Gallery Nucleus. Tell me more about, for you, the split between being an illustrator and having your own shows and your own pieces versus how you also like to integrate comics works into your career, and what you're pushing for as the later part of this year, the things that you're going to still have coming out and the things that you're going to be really working on.
It's. I mean, it was very exciting for me having my first solo show in LA as well. It's like I always thought it would be in the UK, but traveling all the way out to LA has been wonderful. The reception to it has been bigger than I ever could have imagined. It was just crazy on the opening night. I've sold most of my pieces before the show opened, which is insane. And so there wasn't much comics work actually included in that, but that wasn't out of choice. It's because a lot of my sequentials tend to sell very quickly. So I only had one left that I could put in there. I would have liked more sequentials in that show, and I work on comics more than anything else. I'm doing a lot of movie posters and various things at the moment, but my heart's always in comics. And that's what I'm working on the most, either covers or sequentials. So I'm currently working on a series with Warren Ellis for Image called Heartless, which was announced a while back, but we've kind of done our own thing for a little while, and then we've come back to it now, so we're working on that again. And I have a series, it's a bit hush-hush, but I'm sure it's okay for me to mention it. But I have a series I'm going to be working on with Becky Cloonan.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Which is going to be kind of sexy.
Yeah.
A period sexy piece, which I'm really excited about. And that will probably be out next year. So.
Oh man, that's like a superstar pairing right there. I'm excited to see that. Well, thank you so much, Lisa, for being with us. It's just so amazing to be able to honor you and your work. So thank you.
Thank you.